Straits of Salamis, September 29, 480 BC. The sea itself is screaming. Wood splinters with cannon-shot cracks as a bronze ram, slick with brine and blood, punches through the hull of a Persian bireme. Oars snap like twigs. Men pitch into the churning chaos, their cries swallowed by the thunder of 1,000 drums and the roar of marines clashing on rocking decks. The air is a toxic cocktail of salt spray, sweat, and the greasy black smoke of burning pitch. Banners bearing the winged lion of Persia sink into the waves next to the stoic owl of Athens. Through the haze, a Greek commander, his face a mask of grim resolve, bellows an order that is lost in the maelstrom. This isn't a battle. It's the world grinding itself to dust in a channel of water too narrow to contain its rage. Hello, my friends. Welcome to the Cosmic Conquerors channel. Before we begin, please subscribe and hit the bell so you don't miss any of our new content. And share this story with friends so it reaches as many people as possible. If you have a story idea, drop it in the comments. Maybe we'll use it in the next video. Let's begin the story. Pay close attention, because there is one small decision made before the dawn that will change the destiny of nations. The year is 480 BC, and the dream of Greece is dying. The massive Persian war machine, led by the self-proclaimed god king Xerxes, has crushed all resistance. A heroic stand at Thermopylae bought time, but it ended in death. Now, the city of Athens, the cradle of democracy, is a smoldering ruin, its temples desecrated, its people refugees huddled on the nearby island of Salamis. All that remains of their hope is floating in the bay, a fleet of some 370 Greek warships, mostly Athenian triremes, fast and deadly vessels, paid for with the silver from their state-owned mines. It was a fleet championed by one man, Themistocles. Themistocles was not a king or a blue-blooded aristocrat. He was a political brawler, a populist who clawed his way to the top of Athenian politics through sheer brilliance and ruthless ambition. Years before Xerxes ever crossed the Hellespont, Themistocles had convinced his fellow citizens to invest their silver not in handouts, but in building a wooden wall of ships, foreseeing that the real threat to Athens would come from the sea. Now, his prophecy had come true with a vengeance. But his wooden wall was about to splinter. In the Greek War Council, unity was fractured. The commander-in-chief, the Spartan Eurybiades, was a cautious man. He and the other Peloponnesian commanders saw the obvious. Their combined fleet was outnumbered more than 2-1 by Xerxes' armada. Their logic was simple: fall back to the Isthmus of Corinth, build a physical wall, and defend their homeland, the Peloponnese. To them, Athens was already lost. Sacrifice the peace to save the board. Themistocles knew this was a death sentence. In the open seas, the larger, heavier Persian ships would encircle and annihilate their smaller fleet. Their only chance was here, in the narrow straits between Salamis and the mainland, where the Persian numbers would count for nothing, where their vast fleet would get tangled up in its own immensity. He argued, he pleaded, he raged. He reminded the council that the Athenian ships were the backbone of the navy. If they retreated, Athens would take its ships and its people and sail away to found a new city in Italy, leaving the rest of Greece to its fate. It was pure political blackmail, and it worked for a moment. But fear is a powerful corrosive. The whispers to retreat grew louder. What would you have done as the commander in his boots? Trust the charismatic Athenian gambler, or follow the cautious Spartan's logic? Let us know in the comments. With his alliance on the verge of collapse, Themistocles made the most audacious gamble of his life. He summoned his most trusted servant, a man named Sisinus, and under the cloak of deepest night, sent him to the enemy. Sisinus, rowing a small skiff, delivered a secret message to Xerxes himself. The message was a masterpiece of deception. It claimed Themistocles was a secret sympathizer to the Persian cause, that the Greeks were paralyzed by infighting and planned to flee under cover of darkness. It urged Xerxes to block the straits and attack at dawn to capture the entire Greek force in one fell swoop. It was the exact bait Xerxes' arrogant, victory-hungry mind was primed to take. Why wouldn't it be true? His spies had surely told him of the arguments in the Greek camp. It all made perfect sense.
Xerxes, watching from a golden throne he'd had erected on the shore to witness his final triumph, gave the order. The trap was set, but he never once considered who was the trapper and who was the prey. As the first rays of dawn lit the sky, the Greek sailors were stirred by a grim sight.
The Egyptian contingent of the Persian navy had blocked their western escape route. The main Phoenician and Ionian fleets were pressing into the straits from the east. They were surrounded. There was no retreat. Themistocles' deception had worked. He had forced a battle on his own terms by taking away any other option. Now they had to fight not just for Greece, but for their very lives, with their families watching from the shores of Salamis. The battle began not with a grand charge, but with confusion. The massive Persian fleet, accustomed to open water, squeezed into the narrow channel. Ships got in each other's way. Wars became tangled. Commands were lost in the echo between the cliffs. The Greek fleet, meanwhile, held a disciplined line. They feigned a retreat, drawing the Persians deeper into the bottleneck. Then, at the perfect moment, a single Athenian ship shot forward, ramming the lead Phoenician vessel. A cheer erupted from the Greek line. The battle was joined. The Greek triremes were magnificent weapons in these close quarters. Lighter, more agile, and crewed by citizen soldiers rowing for their homes, they darted in and out of the clumsy Persian formations. They didn't just ram head-on. They executed a maneuver called the peritslaus, a rapid flanking move where they would shear off the enemy's oars, crippling them before wheeling around to deliver the death blow with their bronze ram. The sea became a butcher's yard. The proud Persian navy, a multi-ethnic force of subjects and mercenaries, began to break. Ships collided with their own allies. The Ionian Greeks, forced to fight for Persia, were said to have fought with little enthusiasm, some even turning on their masters when the tide of battle shifted. Xerxes watched in horror from his throne. His invincible armada was being systematically dismantled. He saw his own brother Arrhibignus killed and thrown into the sea. He saw the brilliant Queen Artemisia of Caria, one of his few competent commanders, have to ram one of her own allied ships just to escape a Greek pursuer. A move so bold, the Greeks gave up the chase, and Xerxes ironically remarked, "My men have become women, and my women men." It was one of the few wry moments in a day of absolute slaughter. The battle devolved into a rout. The Persian fleet, shattered and demoralized, tried to flee, but the sheer number of their own vessels blocked their escape. They were sitting ducks.
The Greeks, merciless, hunted them down until the sun began to set on a sea of wreckage and floating bodies. The greatest naval force the world had ever seen had been annihilated by a smaller, smarter, and more desperate opponent. The twist, the one that must have haunted Xerxes, was realizing that the information he had trusted, the whisper of a traitor promising an easy victory, was not a betrayal of the Greeks, but a betrayal of him. Themistocles hadn't just predicted his enemy's tactics, he had written the script for them. He had used Xerxes' own arrogance as the primary weapon against him. As Themistocles stood on the deck of his flagship, watching the last of the Persian ships burn against the twilight sky, the cost of his victory lay all around him. The water was thick with the dead, both friend and foe. The air carried the scent of their funeral pyre. He had saved Athens, and in doing so, perhaps, the future of Western civilization. He had won a victory for the ages. But he looked less like a triumphant hero and more like a man who had stared into the abyss and willed it to blink first. "A wall of wood can be rebuilt," he murmured to a subordinate, his voice raspy with exhaustion and smoke. "A wall of stone can be raised again, but a wall of courage, once it breaks, is lost forever." Today, our wall held. But on the horizon, a lone Persian ship, limping toward Asia, carried word not just of defeat, but of a king's wounded pride, a pride that would never truly heal. Who do you think bore the true guilt for this day? The ambitious Xerxes or the deceptive Themistocles who engineered the slaughter? And was his gambit an act of patriotic genius or reckless endangerment? Tell us what you think. And with that, we've reached the end of the story. But stories don't end here.
If you liked this one, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any new stories. And if something caught your attention, leave it in the comments and let's discuss it together. I'll be waiting for your opinions. See you in the next story. Goodbye.